In virtually every single incident where the truth community attempts to confront the governments of the world regarding these craft we're seeing in our skies, they use the term ET. And this gives the governments of the world, the powers that be, an incredible out. They can say, well, yeah, we can confirm that we have no information about ETs. ETs meaning extraterrestrial, meaning not from Earth. What if the powers that be know that these craft are coming from the deep oceans or from an unknown civilization in Antarctica? That would definitely give them the ability to truthfully say, these are not ETs. Now, in the early months of 1996, there was a very strange incident that occurred in the countryside of Brazil. Locals described seeing an unknown craft crash, and in the following days, these very odd creatures appear walking through their town. There were two sisters and their friend who came across one of these creatures that they described as feeble, crouching near a wall, brown skin, red eyes. They thought they had seen the devil, so they went and got one of their parents, who came back and the creature was gone, but described the area in a very specific way. And in this video, I am going to use these descriptions and others to point to the fact that these creatures are very, very likely coming from Antarctica. Now, this incident was known as the Varginha incident, and the descriptions of the creatures vary a little bit, but none of them describe a creature that was hostile or aggressive in any way. In fact, most of them describe creatures that are in trouble and sickly and fearful. And this would point to this. Now, Varginha is a little town way out in the countryside. Here's Rio up here. Here's Sao Paulo way down here. And it's this little tiny town. Now, the location of this town is going to be critical. You need to stay with me through the rest of this video because I'm going to prove something that's going to blow your mind. Some might say, Florida Maquis, if these creatures are living beneath the ice in Antarctica, how in the world are they getting to places like Brazil? Well, perhaps they have technology, but perhaps they also have some physiological adaptations that require that technology, and that's what we're going to cover today. Now, here's the wiki on the Varginha UFO incident, and let's just go through the basic details. These three girls, they allegedly saw the creature in the afternoon during intense rain and strong winds. Remember that. Intense rains and strong winds, meaning the sun wasn't out. They describe a creature of about 5 feet tall, 1.6 meters, with a large head and very thin body, V-shaped feet, brown skin, not gray, and large red eyes, seeming to be wobbly or unsteady, and they assumed it was injured or sick. These sisters said that they fled and told their mother they had seen the devil. The woman did not believe them up until she went to the area where they had allegedly seen the creature, and pay attention here, smelled a strong ammonia-like odor, and found nothing but footprints and a dog sniffing the place. Antarctica has been isolated, not just at the South Pole, but by winds and currents for a very long time. But it was not always so. Even accepted science says that at one time it was a rainforest. Now, every other rainforest in the world has native habitation. Why wouldn't Antarctica? But it gets better. You see, there's more evidence, a different description from a different person who's actually been to Brazil and interviewed the people on the ground. Now, we're going to listen to a 30-second clip from this guy, and it's going to start to make everything coalesce.
What did these creatures look like?
Spindly arms and legs, big head,
Lizardy?
oily skin like that of like a, they said like like an organ, like a liver or a kidney, that kind of oily and that kind of
So
material.
a different kind of race.
No
that we're used to.
hair, very large eyes, slits for mouths.
Well, maybe the Grays type, right?
Yeah, but oily skin and big red eyes and ridges on the forehead. And I don't know why.
Oh, and that's
Now, pay attention to that. He used the term like a liver or kidney. Those are very strange terms. Slimy, like an organ. Now, let's deal with the first allegation of red eyes. Now, who's ever taken a picture where red eye has occurred? It's called the red eye effect. In photography, it's where the pupils don't contract fast enough. I'm sure a lot of you already know what I'm talking about. It's where you have ambient low light and you use a flash. And the person you're taking a picture of, their pupils don't contract quickly, and the light gets reflected, and you can see in this particular case the flash right here of the back of the eyeball. Now, eyeballs of humans and primates are very different than the eyeballs of other animals. Other animals have something called a tapetum lucidum. This is, of course, what we call eye shine. There's another structure in the back of the eyeball of different animals, like, for example, alligators, cats, anything that operates nocturnally. And it shines reflectively and gives them the ability to see at night or see in low light. Now, let's think about this for just a minute. If these creatures had evolved to live beneath an ice sheet in near darkness or total darkness with large eyes, wouldn't it make sense that any amount of light might have the same effect? Maybe their pupils don't have the ability to constrict at all. And a place like Brazil, the only time that it would be possible for them to even come out would be during intense rain or windstorms when the sun was covered up by the clouds. Red eye, just like we see in alligators at night. You don't even need a flash to see this. You don't really even need a flashlight. Just the ambient light at night is enough. Anybody who lives in Florida would know this. Now, imagine for just a second a civilization, a race of beings, 50 years, 100 years, 500 years, under the ice, maybe 1,000 years. What type of adaptations would they have had to make physiologically to deal with that? And then take them with those adaptations and throw them into the middle of a Brazilian rainforest. They would be sick. They would be in trouble because they just had not adapted to deal with a rainforest and the heat. And that's our next stop, hepatorenal syndrome. Now remember, he said they were slimy. They were liver and kidney-like. And the girls that described them saw them as feeble and sickly. And also the mother said she smelled a very strong ammonia-like odor. Now, how many people out there in my audience have worked in the medical industry? As a nurse, a doctor? People in renal failure, people in liver failure, have that smell in their breath. It's in their urine. It's in their sweat. It's a sign of kidney and renal failure. Now, what is one of the ways that you can have this? Vascular problems and heat stroke. How many people out there have dealt with someone who's had heat stroke? How would you describe their skin? Initially, it becomes very slimy and cold. Eventually, it dries up, and then if they don't get treatment, they die very soon. Heat exhaustion moves into heat stroke very quickly, but these are the signs, and these are exactly what is described here. Creatures that have been thrown into an environment they are not physiologically adapted to. They can't survive in Brazil any more than if we took a normal human being and tossed them onto the ice sheet in Antarctica. Both would be dead just as quick. Accepted science has said that there were grasslands and highlands, and Antarctica was not always a frozen ice sheet. Who knows what they could have called it and how many different races could have evolved here. It's larger than Europe. Most people don't know that. They think of Antarctica, they think of Greenland, they think of some island. Antarctica is bigger than the entirety of Europe. And the vast majority of its history, we have no idea what's going on whatsoever. Some people have said, man, that'd be great to get down to Antarctica and get away from everything. They haven't thought about the adaptations that would need to be made and would be made physiologically by living under the ice. People talk about these great explorations they want to go do without thinking about the real ramifications of their actions. These creatures might have been very advanced at one time and may still have some access to advanced technologies, but physiologically they might not be adapted at all to the modern world that we live in. What would happen when you ran out of candles? Maybe at one time they were living on the surface, much like you and I. But then things started to get colder, and they had to go underground. And it got even colder, and they had to go even farther underground. And then eventually, instead of tunneling down, they had to tunnel upward. Because so much ice and so much snow, and it never relented. And they had to just force themselves to live beneath the ice. Now, who remembers from the series Stargate, where they had found one Stargate in Egypt, but then later on they found another one in Antarctica that they didn't know about? You see, that would have been a transport device from below the surface to the surface. That would have been needed to be devised. Now, some might say, Florida Maquis, that seems a bit far-fetched. That seems a bit like crazy talk. Well, let me show you guys something. This is Google Earth Pro. And this is our little town of Varginha, where this craft allegedly occurred. I found something that I don't think is any kind of coincidence. A line. A line that goes virtually right over the town. And what connects those two? Who remembers way back when we discovered the Stargate, in Antarctica? There's a structure on the surface of Antarctica, right here, that looks very much like a Stargate, as described in the series. Now, what would be the odds that I could draw a straight line from this tiny little area in Antarctica right over Varginha and have it arrive someplace we've been before? If you start here at the Stargate on the surface in Antarctica and you draw a straight line over the town of Varginha, and I mean this is only a matter of 1 degree off. Nobody has actually found the exact crash site, so there is a little bit of a distance here. In fact, let me tell you, let's go ahead and measure what the distance is, just so we can. It's only about 15 miles. And like I said, this is what 15 miles looks like, even at this altitude. It's literally right over it. Where does it end up? Funny story. Remember the pentagon shape we found in the middle of Brazil up here? Goes right to the center of it. And those of you that think that this is some kind of a random formation here, that it was just dumb luck, this is a picture from June of 2019. This is a picture from October of 2018. 3 pictures from June to September of 2018, February of 2018, July of 2017. No clearing. February 2016, no clearing. December 2014, no clearing. December 2013, June of 2005. Strangely, out of nowhere, in June of 2019, this pentagon shape appears. And is it a random pentagon shape? It's the exact dimensions of the interior courtyard of our Pentagon in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry, and this is not a very large place. To be able to draw a line between these 3 locations, any 2 locations for sure you can draw a line between. But the fact that it goes right over, right directly over where this alien crash occurred, sorry, to me, not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all. What do you think? I'll leave it there. If you would like to get read in on intelligence and being able to look at things critically and with cold hard evidence, we would love to have you at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. $1 per month, only 3 pennies per day if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable in the first 90 days. It's a deep dive into psychology, how to clear your mind and see things like this, and be able to extract pieces of intelligence like slimy skin, smells like ammonia, red eyes, only came out during storms. These are the things you need to be able to put together going forward. And I'll leave it there. They live in Antarctica, not some other planet. God bless, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.